Bart.
Mr. Yasso.
How you doing? Ken's just on the toilet, so no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You're a comedian.
yeah, I'm a comedian, but it's good to meet you, man. I love the
Nice to meet
background.
you.
I,
Oh,
I
yeah,
love.
this is my house was built in 1749. So they didn't have home offices in 1749.
Oh,
I think when
jeez.
they built that house, they weren't saying, "Oh, this would be perfect for a stay-at-home office."
Yeah, it looks like you're it.
I
Are
call it
you,
my perch.
I like it. I
Yeah, yeah,
like it.
it
Are
worked.
do you still live in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I'm in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, my wife is from right outside of Philly, so and like I
Oh,
would
cool.
race in there in college at the Paul Short cross country
Yeah,
race.
oh
And
yeah. I like that.
yeah,
Paul
I
Short, where you raced on that cross country course, that's 2 miles from my house.
oh really? Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Well, that's yeah, it's a
Ball.
beautiful area.
Yeah, that Paul Short, that's been around a long time.
Yeah, yeah, it's a fun race. Like I yeah, good times. And then they had the I think it was 2019 the club cross country championships
Yes,
there too.
yeah, there were I don't know, like 6 people crashed at my house. I was actually out of town.
Oh,
They took over my house.
and did you know they were coming?
Yeah, yeah, we made arrangements in advance, and then I
Oh,
gave them
okay.
the garage code, and then had keys and everything inside the house to go or do whatever they wanted to do.
That's better than getting a text message like, "We're in your house, we're staying
Yeah,
here." You're
yeah,
like,
exactly.
"Oh, okay." Well, hey man, I am so excited to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh yeah.
Ken and I are both huge fans of yours, but I really, really love the book. Ah, shit, it's blurry.
Yeah.
But okay, well, if it wasn't
Hey,
blurred right now, it would be your 100 runs of a lifetime book. It is
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm so excited to talk about it. Also, want to talk about just like your life, career. I want to talk about the Yasso 800.
Yes, I've heard of those things. Every day of my life.
Every day. Oh, okay. We can stay away from it then if you're tired
No,
of
no,
talking
no,
about it.
no. It's cool. No, it really is. I not. I kid around my life. Every day since the internet started, it appeared in Runner's World in June of 1993. The story on the Yasso 800s, and I thought, okay, people it'll hang around for like a month. People will forget about it, and then this thing called the internet came along, and that was the end of it. And then, I mean, I get messages every day, usually like two or three every single day about Yasso 800s. It's pretty funny. On,
hopefully they're about how helpful they've been. And
well, it's on a global scale. Yeah, there's runners all over. Now, there's people that bash it and they reach out to me. It didn't work for them, and you know, I always say I only ever said it worked for me. I didn't say it worked for anyone else, and that's how the whole thing started.
That
But it is cool. I get a kick out of it.
that's so funny. That's just a testament to how crazy people are that they felt the need to tell you like this didn't work. Like I never
Yeah,
understand. It's like how much time do you have on your hands?
yeah,
That
hey, I don't know if you've ever done this before, but I just wanted to let you know. Doesn't
yeah,
work.
yeah.
yeah. Oh, and I
Uh,
get a lot of people say, "Have I ever heard of the workout?" And I go, "Yes, I've heard of it."
Yasso
Those
800s.
are the people that
Oh.
crack me up.
uh,
How did
speak.
how did that come about? Like just like how did that start,
Uh,
you know?
Ampy Burfoot, our executive editor at Runner's World for many years, back when I was working at Runner's World, and Amby won the Boston Marathon. Obviously, a fantastic runner. I told him about I'm heading out to do this workout 10 times 800 to see what shape I'm in to run a marathon in a couple of weeks. And he looked at me like I was crazy. I went out and did the workout. We were rooming together in Portland, some function that we were at. And he, I came back and I told him what I did the workout in and how it's going to correlate with my marathon. He still was shaking his head. But then I did the marathon a couple of weeks later and hit that exact number. Then he was intrigued.
That's
And
wild.
then so I just sent him what I do, and he started the story. And he said he named them Yasso 800s because I had an unusual last name. If I was Bob Smith, There would never have been
Yeah.
Yasso 800s. But he
Smith
said my name.
800s just
He
don't
said,
roll off
well,
the tongue.
people will remember my name because it's an unusual name.
Yeah.
And then when the internet took off and in the early days, there was this word that we used a lot, Yahoo. And Amby said, see, it's Yasso's like a Yahoo. Everyone knows Yahoo. And then a couple of years later, Google came along and
Yep.
Amby said, Yasso is like Google and Yahoo. And now Amby is a genius, so I should not have second guessed his thinking. I learned
uh,
my lesson the hard way.
speaking of like your athletic background, specifically to you, I just reading up on you, trying to like learn more, have a dutiful conversation. You made the U.S. national biathlon team, right?
Yeah, I was pretty good on a bike. I could run and I could bike. I
So it
never,
was run. It was running, but it
yeah,
wasn't the skiing and shooting.
no, it was running
Oh,
and
okay.
cycling.
Well, that's awesome.
I
Can
believe
you?
they, it changed names. It was biathlon, then it was duathlon, then it was, they keep changing it back and forth. But I did win a couple big triathlon races and duathlons or biathlons, whatever you want to call them back. But that was back in the 80s, early 90s, a long
That's
time ago.
that's still cool. I'm gonna guess running, but when at the time when you were doing both, what did you prefer, running or cycling, or were they equal for you?
Well, I was better at cycling, but running was my favorite sport. And then when I got the job at Runner's World, I just said, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta concentrate more on running, and not so much my running, just running in general to accommodate my job and to do my job well. So I did back off on the cycling, but still did like 6 Ironmans at somewhere along the line in the 90s,
Wow.
and I
That is,
cycled across the United States on a bike twice in the 90s. Did
yes,
two solo bike rides across the U.S., unassisted, unsupported. Just get on
Dang.
your bike and touch your back wheel in the
Yeah.
Pacific Ocean, and then 20 days of riding, touch your front wheel in the Atlantic Ocean. So you did coast to coast. And I
that
did,
is
In less than a
nuts.
month.
yeah, 20 days. I averaged about 165 miles a day and did the northern route both times, which is hilly, and it's
Oh
like
my
Yeah.
God.
3,200 miles to stay on the back roads.
Was there anything crazy you saw while you were out there where you were like, that's some crazy ass shit?
Yeah, there's some, I've always been fascinated by Native American people. And I always read about Wounded Knee and the Badlands, and that stuff was always stuff I read about. So when I got to the Badlands on my bike the first time I did it, it was raining that day, but I was never in rain and never got wet. It was always like the rain was always in front of me, and I was going
Nice.
along about the same speed. And the road would be a little wet, but I was never getting rained on. It was the eeriest thing. And I kept hearing there was no cars anywhere. I'm just cruising along, and I kept hearing these voices, and I keep turning around, and there's nobody there. And I thought, wow, this is all that stuff I read. It's like in my head. It was amazing. The Badlands is an unbelievable place.
That sounds
I can
amazing.
I can
Beautiful.
second that. It's a wonderful.
Yeah.
I was a geologist, and as a
Oh, okay.
geologist, it that is just my bread and butter, that part right
Yeah.
there. Um,
Yeah. So in a treaty, we gave the Native Americans the Badlands. And as long as the sun sets and the moon rises, or however they worded it, it's
yeah.
your land. And then they found uranium. And they said, oh, we didn't mean that. We're going to take it back for a while and mine all this uranium, and then we'll give it back to you. Oh, we
Take all
were,
this dangerous stuff out of the environment, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we want to protect you. That's what we're all about.
Yeah.
yeah. But I have to say that part of going from Wyoming into South Dakota, seeing people in Wyoming, everybody was a cowboy, had spurs on their boots. Crossing to South Dakota, there's no river, nothing. It's just a sign, welcome to South Dakota. And everyone was Native American. It's like the line was drawn. Cowboys this way, Native Americans this way. It was really visual when you're on a bicycle just going like 16 miles an hour. I don't think you
Yeah.
would get that feeling going 70 miles an hour in your car on the interstate. But when you're
That's
It's
It's
really amazing.
it's so interesting, like, because I was asking like what like crazy, and like that's more almost like a beautiful look that, like you said, you wouldn't get
Yeah,
otherwise. What I guess coming out of those bike rides, was that kind of the big takeaway for you? Was like the distinction there and the history there and the experience like with the rain you mentioned, or were there
yeah.
other moments where you
Oh,
were
there
like,
were other moments. Just the sheer way our country is built. Our country is built on little towns. They're everywhere. Like you just go through one little town, another little town, another little town, another little town. You know, like once you get past Seattle, till I got to Spokane, they were all little small towns. And then through Idaho and through Montana, they were all small towns. It's really the physical makeup of our country. People love to live there. That's what
yeah,
I was amazed at. They ain't going anywhere. And then there were some people that weren't fond of where they lived, but they weren't going anywhere either. They said, yeah, I was just born here. I got to stay here. I'm not really wild about it, but what are you going to do? And then they would
yeah.
ask me questions on, like, what's New York City like and stuff like that. It was amazing to me how many people live in these small towns and are happy, and that's their homestead, and that's where they were born, and that's where they're going to stay.
Oh, that's
Really, you really get to talk to people. People talk to you when you're not intimidating. You're not in a car, when you're just on a bicycle. You look kind of rugged when you're out there all day in the sun, getting beat up.
that.
People offer me money, food, and I said I don't need any money. I got all the money I need. I don't need any food. I got my packs on my bike that had food, and I stopped get food, and I said, I admire you offering me stuff. I'm good. They offer me, you can stay at our house. That stuff went on for the first like 10 days, 11 days.
Wow.
And then I got near Chicago and things changed. The pace wasn't
Oh.
there. The kindness was not there. I'm not blaming people in Chicago. It's a big city. You got to live a different way.
Right.
In a big city. You can't just like
Yeah.
go out of your house and walk down the double yellow line of the main street in your town. You can in these little towns, but not in Chicago. So
Sounds
I,
like
I
west of the Mississippi is the backbone of America.
yeah, that is true. Yeah,
I do love the idea of like it's like a funny concept, like not being intimidating on a bike. Like you pull up and they're all like, well, that guy's not gonna rob us, he's got a bell bike, like give me your money, ching
yeah,
ching.
yeah. And when I first did it, so I did it in 1992 and 1994. When I did it in 1992, I rode 3,200 miles in 20 days.
Oh,
And I finished on a Sunday, and I always commuted to work 25 miles in the morning, 25 miles at night. I always commuted on my bike. So all my colleagues at Runner's World said, well, he's not going to ride his bike to work today. He just finished 3,200 miles. I came in on my bicycle into work, and they were like, you rode your bike here? I said, when we have our Monday morning meeting, I'll talk to everybody. And we had our little meeting. It was a weekly meeting that we had every Monday. I said, look, if I could, if I, didn't have to work, I would ride right back to where I would start. I said I would do the exact course in reverse just to see the
Yeah.
difference. I said I had so much fun. It's just unbelievable. And I was at a race this past weekend up in Vermont, a marathon. And I spoke at a dinner, and I was talking about people were asking me questions about a lot of the runs in 100 runs of a lifetime. And then this one guy knew I did the two bike rides, and he said something to me about them. And I said, okay, I'll come clean to this large group of runners. I said, in all the running I did, all the places I've been, none of the running, anything I did in running doesn't compare to riding across the United States. There's just something, I mean, I think about it every day. Some point in the day, something pops up, some memory, some town. Like I'll be watching TV and I'll mention a town and I go, I went through that town in Iowa or wherever. And it's amazing to me. And the way we always look at the contiguous 48 states and then, Hawaii and Alaska. But when you physically like ride through the majority of them, it's just something that you just can't forget. Like I don't know, it was really cool to do. And when I did it the second time in 1994, I did the same basic course. See, I always just say Seattle to New York City so people would know two reference points. I actually finished in Asbury Park, New Jersey both times, where I could put my front tire in the Atlantic Ocean, and I started northwest of Seattle to get the Pacific water. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. But when I did it the second time, so the first time, when I got to Yellowstone National Park, I took the North Loop. So this time I did the South Loop. When I got to like Cody, Wyoming, there's old road 16 and new road 16. So I did it different roads, but it was basically the same thing. And I still loved every second of it as much as I did the first time I did.
Man, you're making me want to get a bike. I don't. I have $100 bike I got on Facebook Marketplace, so that don't count.
Oh, yeah.
Like the guy tried to get me to go into his basement when I bought it, and I was like, no. Sorry, it sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I
I was in Wyoming, leaving the mountains, leaving Cody, and climbed this mountain up to 10,000 feet in the Bighorn Mountains, and then there was this long descent in this town called Sheridan, Wyoming. So I put on some warmer clothes when I was at the 10,000 foot elevation, got down to like Sheridan's at like 5,000 feet. And then I had to shed some clothes. So I pulled over and shed a layer, a jacket, and these kids were in the park, and they were smoking pot. I could smell the pot they were smoking. And they looked at me and they saw my bike and everything. And they said, "Where are you going, mister?" And I said, "I'm riding my bike across the United States." And they go, "Dude, we have these things called airplanes. That's how you." I was like, "Oh my God, I was one of those punk kids 25 years ago." And now I was laughing so hard when that kid said that to me.
It's not
That's
about
funny.
what you do or how you do it. It's about the people that you meet on the way.
Yeah.
And if you take a plane, you're not going to meet anybody
You don't
interesting.
see anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Speaking of planes, and this is a really weird question, but just I travel a lot for comedy, and I'm truly
Yeah.
curious because you've traveled all over the world. Where do you fly out of? Because being in MS, like it's not like there's an international airport there.
Yeah, no, I flew out of Philly. I have not frequent flyer miles, actual air miles. I have just under 2 million flown miles with
Jesus.
just American. And I flew United many times and Delta and all the international flights. But just on American, I'm like 1.9 million actual flying miles.
What kind of perks are those like?
Yeah, well, you just
A
when
million mile.
when you hit the million mile thing, they send you like peanuts and stuff in the mail.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not as great as you would think, but they do honor those miles, that level of commitment forever. You know, you're always
super cool.
A gold member or some kind of member. I don't really, I haven't been on a plane in 3 years because I was always on a plane. So when I really retired and got things squared away, I really did chill out on travel.
Very nice.
It's still really cool though. It's awesome. So working at Runner's World, right? You developed the forgive me if I get the name wrong, but it was their race sponsorship program.
Yeah,
right?
that's how I started there I was the liaison between events and Runner's World, and then I was also the person between the general public going the races. I was the person out on the street, you know.
Gotcha. So you were almost like the face of the brand for that.
Yes.
So when you were there, like were you taking notes? Were you like reporting back? Were you just kind of interacting as that representative? Like what did that look like?
Yeah, so I was getting people to subscribe to our magazine, getting them to buy the books that we produce, all the products that we have. When the internet came along, to get people involved with our newsletters that we would have electronically, just taking all the products we had at Runner's World and showing them to people and hoping that can be helpful to them. And then my first book came out in 2008, and that seemed to change the amount of travel I did. I went from doing like 40 trips a year that I would fly somewhere to almost 60 trips a year that I would fly
Oh,
somewhere. I would go midweek to either fly like a running store or a bookstore or a running club type of an event, and then still 40 weekends be at an event somewhere. So it was when my book My Life on the Run came out, my travel really picked up.
that's a
And,
heck of a
and
time.
yeah, and then Runner's World kept on picking up international editions. We eventually got up to 19 international editions.
Wow.
Oh,
I know they gave me an award one time for being like the global ambassador of running. When I was in South Africa, I believe is when I was granted that award. And it was like all the running organizations throughout Europe and Asia were getting together for a meeting. And they picked me as the person of, the global ambassador of running kind of.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty cool.
When
That's pretty neat.
when you got that job, was that like, did you approach them about that? Did they approach you? Like, how did that relationship and that connection happen?
Yeah, so when I started at Runner's World, I just said I said to myself, to no one else, that I'm going to work harder than anyone in this company, in this business, in this industry, because I
Yeah.
felt like a good opportunity to not only make a living, but to spread the joy of running, which I really liked. So I worked hard, man. I really pushed it, did whatever I could to improve myself, my image, and the brand. And it was just a lot of work. It was a lot of the stories that were in Runner's World. I may not have had zero part of writing the feature story, but I found the feature story. I found the person that we wrote about, the group we wrote about. Because I always
Gotcha.
used to say to everyone, the stories are not going to walk in our front door. We got to
Right.
be out there.
True.
So going around all over the world, and majority of my travel was domestic. Going to the running clubs, running stores. That's where I found all these, classic stories, and they would turn into feature stories. I mean, I had no clue. I lived 70 miles from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, the biggest Amish community in the world. And I never knew there were Amish runners. And I used to go to Amish country
What?
all the time. I would at least go twice a year, and once in the spring, once in the fall. I was always fascinated. How can they plow a field without modern technology? And they use a horse, and the guy's hanging on a horse with some kind of thing that's chopping up the land that he's attached to. And I'm like, God, these people, they amaze me. And then they sell all their goods on the side of the road, which I love. So,
Yeah.
but I got this call from this Mennonite guy, and he said, the Amish want to run with you. There's this Amish group that's out there wants to run with you. I'm like, what Amish group are you talking about? And he said, if you commit, we run after sunset, and we run when there's a full moon, because then we have moonlight to guide us, and we run 10 miles. So I said, okay. So we picked a date, and I went out to Lancaster, met the group of Amish, and we headed out for 10 miles as soon as it got dark, because they didn't want to be seen by everybody. They wanted to keep it quiet, because they told me they had softball teams, and then they made like standings in the softball teams, who won this game and that game, and then the bishop said no more, because they made it into a competition instead of like caring about each other.
Right.
So they knew
Oh,
with the running, they loved it so much, they didn't want to lose the opportunity to run. So they would run at dark, and we're running through these farm fields of Lancaster County. These Amish guys knew exactly where we were. I had no clue where we were. We ran as a group, and it was just beautiful. And the Amish really don't fence in their farm, or they don't fence in their farm. They fence in animals that they use on their farm. But the farm fields, you just run one after the other, and it's just incredible.
that's
10
so
miles.
freeing.
Yeah, it's really cool. We did, we think what was 10 miles, and then we ended up at Jacob's barn, and I remember I said I gotta drive home, and it's already now like 11:30 at night, and and they said, oh, we're gonna have coffee and homemade ice cream. I said, oh, I'll be good. So a bunch of homemade ice cream downed it with coffee, and I was wide awake to drive home. But
Also an awkward conversation where you're like, wait, do you believe in freezers? You guys have
yeah,
freezers? I thought we didn't do electricity.
yeah, there is certain things that you see that you kind of just look the other way. 'Cause they did have somebody had a GPS watch on, and I wasn't gonna rat on anybody. But the Amish said to me that, they asked me all these questions, and I talked to them for quite a while after a run. It was really fun.
Let me
And
hook my let me
yeah,
hook my GPS watch to my iPhone.
yeah,
Hold on one sec. And you're like, you're riding a horse and buggy. What is happening right now?
yeah. Well, so anyway, when after I did that first run with them, they asked me to come back. They said, "Will you come back the next full moon?" And I said, "Yes, I'll return under one condition, that you convince some of the Amish women to run with us, and you can start tomorrow, get them out there running, so that in a month from now they'll be ready to run, cover the 10 miles." And
So do
they
they
did.
only run on a full moon, or they only want it like
They
honored
go on
guests?
they train other times in the dark, but they
Okay,
only
okay.
run as a big group on the full moon, and but they'll do their own training on their own early in the morning, late at night. But they convinced a couple women to run the 10-mile full moon run. And it was summertime, so we waited till like 9:15 to start running.
Wow.
And there was this woman, I remember her name. Her name was Lily. She was running faster than I could run, and I'm trying to keep up with Lily, and she's got a bonnet on and a dress from her neck to her ankles, but she had on some kind of running shoes, and
That's
she was
awesome.
running along. And then finally, I was able to keep up with her. And then we got up on this hill, and she knew where we were. She screamed like, "There's Jacob's barn!" And man, she left me in the dust. I couldn't believe how fast she could run. And now I go out to Lancaster County, and like 400 Amish people know who I am. They always say, "Hey,
That's
Mr.
super
Yasso's
cool.
here." It's really cool. So
That's so
the things I remember the most about my job and at Runners World, what I did at Runners World, was when you affect an entire community, like the Amish community. The other race I felt like that was when I did the Comrades Marathon in South Africa, which is, they call it a marathon, but it's actually 89 kilometers, which is 56 miles. The oldest ultra in the world, the largest ultra in the world. And, during apartheid, the, the, the black citizen runners black South African citizens runners that I talked to, they said during apartheid, the only time they felt free was when they ran Comrades. They felt like when they got out to the start of Comrades, and that gun went off and they ran 56 miles, every South African was united. Everybody was one. There was no black and white. Apartheid didn't exist. And when they told me that, when they talked about that, man, they had tears coming down off their cheeks. So you can imagine what was happening to me. It was really, it's just to look in their eyes and hear them say those words. The only time they felt free was when they ran the Comrades Marathon. I looked them right in the eye when I was done talking to them, and I said, if running can suppress something as evil as apartheid, I will be a runner for life. I guarantee you, I will keep running the rest of my life. So commitment I made to them, for them sharing their stories about growing up in South Africa. So I feel Comrades is that other race that changed an entire country. It really was something that helped in the abolishment of apartheid.
Bart, I'm gonna start crying. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
that jeez. I mean, it's
I was,
beautiful.
yeah. When I talked to some of the black South Africans right at the starting line, and they were crying, and I was like, "Please, we can't talk about this anymore. I'm
Yeah,
hyperventilating. We're gonna be running in like 30 seconds. I'm not
I
gonna
got
make a one.
89K to do.
I
Yeah,
know.
I'm not
It's
gonna make
like
a one block in this race.
it's like we're gonna be crying at mile 40 because we just ran 40 miles. Let's try
Yeah,
to. Whew.
yeah. I love when you said 89K, because Comrades does what most races should do. They do the mile markers or kilometer markers in their world in reverse. So you run like
Oh,
a
that's
hundred
really
yards
nice.
and you see 89 kilometers, then you see 88, then you see 87, and they keep going down. When you get down towards the end, when you say have run 50 miles already, you'll see a sign that says 8 kilometers to go instead of seeing a sign that says 50 miles.
Right.
It really works mentally because it's a small number. And then you say to yourself, well, you can always run 8 kilometers.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like, well,
Yeah.
look how much I've just done. You can easily do that. Like,
I'm telling you, it's a brilliant way to do it.
I would agree.
I'm curious, because like you've done comrades, you're going and running with the Amish, like you're doing a lot of higher mileage things at times. Did you keep track of like your weekly mileage and like what the highest mileage you ran in a week was?
Yeah, so I did before I worked at Runners. I started at Runners World in '87. I have log books from '77 to like I believe to like '87 or maybe in '88. Every mile, every race, all that stuff. And then I started putting them on the computer in like a 5.5 quarter-inch disc or the floppy disk we called them back in the days.
Oh, yeah.
Pre-internet, but you could put it on your computer and put it on a disk. And then, so that stuff is somewhere lost or thrown away. So I don't know the kind of mileage I did after probably 88 or 89. But prior to that, in the early 80s, I ran 5,000 miles a year. Ran, most weeks I ran 110 miles. And then there were weekends where I would back off on, stuff. But yeah, the end of the year, you'd add up the mileage. It was always 5,100 or it's just crazy. And I tell people not to do that. I advise that I ran too much. But that's every marathoner I knew in the 70s and early 80s ran 100 some miles a week. So it wasn't like I wasn't this person saying, oh, I'm going to run all these miles. Everyone I knew did that kind of mileage. So
right.
One of the runners. Yeah.
Yeah.
But too much. You don't really need it. I learned that later in life. It beats you up.
So with I keep blurring it. Okay. Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
There we go. So there we go. That's what I love. There we go. All right. So for your book, I truly love this book. It is sort of almost like a Bible for awesome races and places to run. It's a beautiful reference. I would love to hear how you selected the races and the routes you chose for this book.
Yeah, that is the hardest thing I've ever done. So first I got a call from National Geographic. They want me to be the author of this book. They have this series called the 100 series. 100 ski slopes of a lifetime, 100 scuba dives of a lifetime, 100 bike rides of a lifetime, 100 hikes of a lifetime. And they wanted me to author 100 runs of a lifetime. So I signed the contract and said, yes, I would do it. And then, the first thing I did was look at 5 passports that I have. And my passports used to be, in the old days, completely full. Every page had either a visa on it or a stamp. So I had to figure out every place I'd been because most of the travel was to events. And then for some reason, I started keeping my press passes when I would go to races. I don't know why I got that idea. I had 800 press passes that I laid out in my living room and figured out all the races and locations I've been to. So I didn't have my own real organized what I did race-wise. So that took a while to get organized and then start making a list, what we called the book map, the 100 races. And so I started out memorable races I really loved, and I had 200. And I'm like,
we got to cut this down.
Contract says 100. So I was happy that I had that many, and then I could start working down. It wasn't easy to eliminate races because there were some really cool races that I had to eliminate. But that's how it all started. And then when I got it down to 105, that's when I actually reached out to Nat Geo and said, okay, let's break this down domestically, internationally, locations, and really figure out which ones we should eliminate and keep. And so then they didn't say do this, do that. They suggested, maybe this would look better and that kind of stuff. So then we got to 100, and then from there we decided this system of 4 parts of the book. First part being under the marathon distance, second part being the marathon races, third part, and of course, as you guys know, marathon races, most of them have other races, shorter distances. And then the third part was trails and ultras. And then the fourth part is there's 31 runs in the fourth part, which is a run, not a race. And I really love doing that section because I wouldn't, they're really beautiful places and neat runs to do. And you can go run there by yourself. You can run with 10 of your friends. You can start at 4 in the morning. You could start at 4 in the afternoon. You can start on a Tuesday. You can do it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Races, you have to be there when the race starts and the date and all that stuff is so structured. Those 31 runs are just whenever you want to do it, you go do it. I use an example when I was in Darjeeling, India. And the first morning I was there, I asked the owner of the hotel, can I run through the tea fields behind the hotel? And they said, yes. So the tea fields were like 5 miles long. So I did this out and back 10-mile run. And it's just a beautiful morning. The tea leaves are all moist. And
all the smells
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Oh. Darjeeling's a really pretty place. So I got back from my run and I see all these little black things all over my legs and in my socks and in my shoes. They were leeches.
Oh.
And I had them everywhere all over my legs. So I started making piles of leeches. I put 10 in this pile and 10 in this pile. I had to figure out how many leeches were on me. I gave up counting because I just wanted to get rid of them all. They just left a little mark there. But I just ran with bare legs. I had shorts on. So the next day I said, I'm going to, if I run on tea fields, I'll wear long pants that the leeches won't stick to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said to the guy, well, is there any trail that I can run up in the mountains? That way I won't have to deal with any of that stuff. And he said, yeah, go to this town called Menapajang and run to this town called Sandafu. So beautiful mountainous run on this trail. And when you get to Sandafu, there's a thing called the stupa where people go to pray. And when you're standing at the stupa looking out at the Himalaya, you can see 4 of the 5 highest peaks in the world. And
nice.
There's a little sign there that says, geographically, this is the only place in the world where you can see 4 of the 5 highest peaks in the world. Pretty cool spot to run to.
Nice.
And so I started using runs like that I've done to, and I made sure that all the stuff is accessible. Now, some of them are like running at Everest Base Camp and stuff. It's arduous. Not everyone's going to do that, but it's out there. And when I looked on this book, there's some runs in this book that I haven't done, but I wanted to make sure they were in this book because they're such iconic races. And then it's only in the race section would be that I haven't done. And I'm hoping I can accomplish them because it's like a challenge to me.
What would be some of the races you want to do that you haven't done?
The 6-star stuff was not a thing when I was doing marathons.
Oh, gotcha.
I did not have the international, I'd done Chicago, obviously, and Boston and New York, but I never did London, Berlin. When I was doing Berlin's the first time they had Berlin, they had 37 runners total.
What?
Yes,
my God.
the very first Berlin marathon. Yeah, it wasn't quite what people think it is today. So I would love to do those 3 marathons that, and of course now they're adding more to the 6 stars. But I would love, and there's a couple other runs in there that I haven't done. And if I can do them, I would actually, if they have a half, I would do the half. Because I just can't run as much as I used to. And I want it to be a nice experience. I don't want to go out there and beat myself up or do the marathon and not make the cutoff because I'm just so slow. So I hope to accomplish all of them that are in here that I haven't done.
That's awesome. When you're So okay, so now you're done with the planning phase. Now you're gonna sit
Oh
down,
yeah.
you're gonna write about them. Do you have to reach out to the race to get like approval because you're like sort of using their likeness, or is it just kind of free game because you're like reporting
No,
on it?
no, no. I mean, a lot of them, it's my experience. I've run most, my vast majority.
Right.
So it's my experience, what I remember, and I would go to their website to make sure that the details I have are still correct because I may have done the race 10 years ago or 15 years ago and make sure, you know, little course changes aren't that big a deal. And I don't have the exact course in all the races, but I just want to make sure Paris Marathon still goes by the Eiffel Tower and stuff like that. I just wanted to
Right.
confirm that stuff. But
For
no,
sure.
the races, I knew all the races. The ones that I didn't do, I know all
Right.
about them just from working at Runner's World, and we've covered them, tremendously over the years. But it's just something that came on later, and I just, I should have done them earlier in my career, but just didn't work out that way. So hopefully I'll get out there and be able to do some.
Yeah, man, you definitely will. I mean, I also feel like you probably could get a race entry given who you are. You reach out, you're like, hey, uh,
Yeah, I know most of the race directors. I don't know them all. They changed over the years, but I know the majority of
I feel like a quick Google search though would be like, okay, let's give this guy an entry.
them. Yeah, I
I it
I did just go to one of the races that was in the book, the Mad Marathon up in Vermont, which is one of the races featured in the book, and it was really cool because I took like 35 books up there to sell and sat down, and it's a small race. I mean, a small race in the big picture, 1,000 runners total. And I sold those 35 books within 2 hours. And
there you
everybody
go.
kept saying I could have sold 500 for sure. And they kept saying, you got to bring more books. I said, you know, I I don't mind signing the books. I don't want to be a retail guy stuck in a corner with credit cards and all that kind of stuff. That's not my
Yeah.
style.
Right.
I was happy to just bring a couple of boxes and sell them, and it was fun to do.
Um, if someone came like me, Tommy, I'm asking him like Bart, just like one race. I'm looking for like what you thought was maybe your most favorite. And I know it's hard to choose. It's not the most fair question, but I'm like, give me one race that's just
Yeah.
amazing. What would that be?
So I would say comrades, but I talked about comrades. So I would say other than that, it would be the Big Sur Marathon because
Oh, nice.
and also let me do two, and that makes it easy on me. Big Sur, when the first year I did Big Sur, I finished that race, and the race director was at the finish line. He saw me coming in, and he sent a newspaper reporter after me. This was back newspapers were a big deal years, many, many, many years ago. So the guy from the Monterey paper, I believe it's called the Monterey Times, he comes up to me and he says, "What did you think?" And I looked him right in the eye and I said this quote, and the race still uses this quote. I said, "If I was told I could only run one marathon in my lifetime, Big Sur would be the marathon I would choose." And I
Okay.
firmly believe that. I mean, I still feel that way. It's just now some people like big city marathons, and I love the crowds and the screaming and yelling and all that kind of stuff. And Big Sur doesn't have that, but Big Sur has some natural beauty, and it's a hilly course, which I loved. And it was just I really felt that way when I finished. They're like, dang, I just ran the prettiest race I've ever run. The other one I will say is Pikes Peak Marathon in Manitou Springs,
Ooh,
Colorado.
nice.
They do a Saturday race, which is called the Ascent, which is a half marathon. You just run from Manitou at 6,500 feet up to the top of Pikes Peak, 14,100 feet, and then you get a bus ride down. The marathon, you run up, turn around, and come back down on the Bart Trail. It's a beautiful trail. It's a beautiful mountain. Manitou's a neat little village where it starts and finishes. So I was running a really good race, get up to the top and turn around. They used to tear the half of your bib number off, so it recorded that you were up there, and then you turn around and start running down. And the rules are, since the trail is really narrow, the person coming down has the right of way. So, and people were doing that as I was coming down, and I was pretty far up I was running a pretty good race. And somewhere along the line, we're still above tree line and maybe down around 10,000 feet, somewhere like that. I look up and this woman, instead of being on the right side of the trail where she should have been, she was right in front of me. And I'm like, I'm going to hurt this person really badly if I run into her because she was much smaller than I am. And I kind of did this Superman sideways thing and dove into the rocks to not run this poor woman over. I mean, I don't think she did it intentionally. I know she didn't do it intentionally. She could have tripped or whatever, but she was literally, I mean, I was gonna run right into her. So I did this taking off, and I know I did it like that because my right side was so screwed up. I was bleeding in my shoulder, my hip, the right side of my knee, my ankle, and I just got up and kept running. And then all of a sudden I could hear the blood in my shoes and I could feel it swish
Oh.
between my toes. And I'm like,
Ugh.
wow, I'm really bleeding. And I started running again. I was sore, like I was like hobbling to run. People said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, I'm all right." But eventually I got my stride back after a while, and I just kind of said, "Okay, don't bleed to death out here. Just get to that finish, and you get your Pikes Peak Marathon." So I get to the finish, and it was just the coolest experience. And then, they looked at me and they said, "Okay, you got to get to the medical tent right away." I
Yes.
said, "Okay." But I said, "Let me just turn around and look back up at the mountain." And, I looked back up where you could see the top, 14,100 feet, and you're down to 6,000. I think Manitou's like 6,500. And then I got that beautiful view. So I go in the medical tent. I was feeling like a jerk, like I'm all bloody. And then I go in the medical tent, and there's like 10 other guys in there, and they're all bloody. And I'm like, oh. Then I was euphoric. It just my whole attitude changed. I was just so happy that I really thought for a minute that I was the only one that was going to show up bleeding and beat up like that. And there were other people like me. So this woman comes up to me and says, "Okay, I got to get all this stone and little rocks and stuff out of all the where you have all the abrasions, so we
Yeah.
can put mercurochrome and then bandage it." I said, "Okay." She had like a giant toothbrush. It looked like. And
Oh, that's
she
not
said,
friendly.
"Yeah." She said, "This is gonna hurt." And I said, "No, it's not gonna hurt." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Trust me." I said, "This blood, sweat, and tears and fun, this race is beyond belief." I said, "You could use a wire brush and I would never feel it." And
Oh,
I just laid on that table and this woman cleaned all the stuff out. When she was done, she goes, "Oh my God, you did not flinch, you did not move. You were really serious." I said, "Oh, this was so much fun. I can't wait to just get out of here and go out and talk to people." And then they put the bandages on me and I went out there. It was just so much fun.
oh
I just
man.
That's
it's one
awesome.
of those it's one of those things when you're there, when you're in Manitou, everyone there is running the race. So everywhere you talk to everyone before the race, on Saturday, on Friday. When you run the New York City Marathon, there's 50,000 runners, but there's still 10 million people in New York City.
Right.
It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like you walk down the street and go, how fast are you running tomorrow? What are you trying? There's still a lot of other people. It just seems like Manitou, all the runners take over the hotels that are available, and there's just runners in this little town, except for the people that work the restaurants and ice cream shops and coffee shops. So that's what meant the most to me was the camaraderie and the fun, and the tough course was also right up my alley.
That's
That's so
awesome.
awesome. I've run marathons before, but like, it just like what you're saying, like you can go to a big city and run a marathon, but there's so many other people there that are not doing that. I like the sense of community, from a
Yeah,
smaller race and just like the energy that you can feed off of that. And I don't know, I'm just sitting here listening to you saying, "Oh, I gotta write some more things down, add them to my list." I don't want to
yeah,
doing the New York City Marathon, whatever. I'll do the Pikes Peak though. I'll
yeah.
climb
Yeah.
that. That'd be really cool.
Shamrock, you sent me
Oh
a
yeah.
picture of us at Shamrock in Virginia Beach, and that has the same appeal to me. The first time I ran the Shamrock, I was going to run the half.
Hmm?
I had to speak at the expo and speak at some dinner and do other stuff that Jerry and Amy, the race directors, asked me to do, and then They said, what do you want to do? One race. I said, I'll just run the half. So I had no idea what I would run or how I would, what the plan was really to do. And the day before the race, this person came up to me, said, "You got to meet my daughter Danny. She's your biggest fan, and she came to this race just because of you." And so
Oh,
here, Danny was 14, and she asked her mom and dad when she was 10 if she could run a half marathon. And they told her, they said, "You got to wait till you're 14." And she asked them that when she was 10. She came to one of my talks that was at Vermont City Marathon. She wanted to be just like me. So,
oh,
so she told her parents, and her parents said, when you turn 14, you can do a half marathon, and we'll go to one that Bart Yasso is going to be at. So they picked Shamrock. So the mom
Very cool.
tells me this, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. So
Yeah.
I asked her, I said, how about I knew what corral she was in. I said, how about I run with her but keep it a secret, and I'll jump in with her right at the start of the race. When I see her corral come up, I'll look for her, I'll yell her name out, she'll wave to me, and I'll jump down and run the entire race with her. It was the
So cool.
coolest thing to do because I felt like I was 14 years old. She was running this race, smiling, having fun.
oh.
And I felt the same. I felt like I was a kid. We ran every step together. It was really cool. In fact, when I was at the Mad Marathon, I ran into mom, and she said, "Oh yeah, you should see Danny. She's 27. She has
Wow.
3 kids, married, 3 kids." But she said she can't wait. She said she is going to see you at some race someday. She keeps in touch. Follows where I'm going, and it was really cool. Stuff like that. Like you can't script stuff like that. And if
No,
you
That's
script it, it would never be the experience it was. When it happens organically and it's just like a thing to do. I didn't think it was like a cool thing to do or like, oh, this is what I could do. It just happened. I just said, oh, it would be cool just to run with her because I don't need to run a Shamrock Marathon to try to get a PR or whatever. I had my years. I just was,
yeah.
it was awesome. And then the craziest thing, the next year I go there and these people send me a message and they said they had a question if I could help them. And I told them what time I'd be at the expo. They come up to me and they said, the mom's in BQ shape. She thinks she can run around 3:30. And the dad wants to break 2 hours and he's in the best shape of his life. And I said, well, what's the story? Well, what's the question? And then he said, we have our daughter with us and we're afraid to let her run alone in the race. And I said,
Oh, that's so.
yeah, I said, no problem. I ran with this young lady last year. I'll run with her. And I said, but find out how fast she's going to run because if I got to make sure I can keep up with her. She went
nice.
back with me at the time she was going to try to run. I said, I can do that. So that happened to me 2 years in a row. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about racing, the community, the people involved with our sport. I always say running it is the sport. I would say if there is a sport that can make a country more unified and connected and to encourage others and to help others, running is that sport.
Without
Jeez.
a doubt.
Well, honestly, that's just a beautiful way almost to end it, I think. I normally we like to do fun, silly questions at the end, but that was, I don't know, Ken, what do you think? I think that was perfect.
No, that's spot on. I can't put it any better. I feel like the only other thing is I feel like some of these smaller events, smaller races are better opportunities to, make these personable connections with some of
Yeah,
these, big name athletes. And we speak about Shamrock, but time from when I sent you that photo, that
yeah.
Shamrock that year, Meb was
2019.
he. Yep, 2019. Meb was also there. He was pacing a group, and I had was running the half that year. It's like, hey, let me try to run in Meb's pace group.
Yeah,
Ran with him the whole race,
yeah.
and it's just so cool. Like just like those experiences that you just don't get at something like a Boston or a New York, where you might run into them on the road or out on the street, but you don't get to like have that experience of running with them, and it's just so cool.
Mev has the greatest story in sport. He really does. And he's such a nice guy. When he gave up competitive running, he really knew what to do. And exactly that was about the time when he first came to Shamrock and just He just goes out there and does fun stuff, and
Yep.
fun stuff that involves other runners.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's truly what it's all about.
All right, man. Well, on that note, Bart, we scheduled this for an hour. We want to be respectful of your time, but
Oh
man,
yeah, no problem.
this was amazing, and thank you for taking the time to chat with us. I love this.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Tommy.
much.
You were Tommy. You were at Utica.
Oh yeah, I was.
Going up to Utica.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable race.
Yeah, it's an awesome race. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always funny too because I'm from upstate New York, actually
Yeah,
about
yeah.
an hour and a half from Utica.
Yep.
But I'm always like, it's so funny that a race this big, like the 15K national championship, is like right here in Utica. It's awesome.
Yeah. One of the races I go to every year is Wineglass up in Corning, New York.
Oh yeah.
Ah,
My mom,
yeah.
my mom and my
That race
uncle
is
or aunt have done
unbelievable.
that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I do the race announcing and do a lot of stuff. And I talked Mev, Mev's been there twice. I talked him into coming one year, and he said to me, he said, "Are you sure it's a big enough race?" I said, "Mev, you're gonna find out. Sometimes it's a big race. I mean, 10,000 people." I said, "But sometimes those races you will meet more people than
Oh
you
yeah.
would in Chicago or New York because there's just chaos at all those races." I said,
Oh yeah.
like Wineglass is an intimate area, like one
Yeah.
street. And he told me, he said, "Oh my God, I never, never could have believed it." He said he had so much fun, and he feels like he met everyone that was in the race.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. And that's what I think some of the smaller races are really thriving in these days in running. Some of the smaller marathons and half marathons.
Oh
Smaller
yeah.
meaning smaller communities. And
Yeah.
For sure. Even what I mean, this podcast kind of is trying to like harness and honor that. And what I'm doing with the live shows with stand up is like trying to tie directly in with those things because the community is just so much fun and beautiful, and it gives them something
yeah,
to do like before the race, and it's a great time. Yeah.
cool.
All right.
Hey guys, Tommy,
Well,
Well,
thank you so much. Thanks
thank
for the
you.
opportunity.
yeah, thank you, Bart. All the
You.
love, man. And the episode will hopefully be out this Saturday, so I will send it to you. And it
Yes,
was
please.
really awesome getting to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
My man.